Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Anatomical Gangster, where we challenge the status quo and explore groundbreaking ideas in movement, healing, and human potential. I am your host, Sue Hitzman, and today is all about reconnecting with one of the most overlooked but powerful parts of our body, our feet. But before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to wonder what your feet can actually feel? I mean, beyond shoes and socks, what sensory messages are they sending? And how might these signals impact how you move, stand, or even heal? Are you curious about how tapping into the sensory awareness could improve your performance or relieve chronic pain? Well, if these kind of questions intrigue you, you are in for a treat. And listen, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment and share this episode. It really helps me bring new people and paradigm shifting conversations to more people like you. Now, let me introduce today's guest, who's my friend and colleague, Dr. Emily Splichal. She is a functional podiatrist, a human movement specialist who has spent literally decades studying barefoot science, foot core integration, and sensory awareness. I mean, she is my people. As the founder of EBFA Global, author of Barefoot Strong, and the CEO of Naboso Technology, Dr. Splichal has revolutionized how we view our role of our feet in everything from injury prevention to movement longevity. Stick around because this conversation will transform how you think about your connection to the ground beneath you. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Emily Splichal. So, Emily, I am so glad to see you. Emily and I have known each other for, I don't even know, 20 plus years, something like that. It's been a minute.
We go back to our New York City days.
Indeed, indeed. And both of us, I think the fundamentals of our feet are so, I always feel like you are my people. You know, you have just gone so far above and beyond to try to wake people up. And I'm so excited to talk about both of the books. And I had said off camera that Emily is the only person I know who would put out two books at the same time. It's very badass. I'm halfway through Barefoot Strong, and it's just excellent. I mean, you're a great writer also. The whole flow of the book is really easy to follow. And so, yeah, I'm just so excited about that. But let's just start here. I want you to tell, because I'm not 100% sure I know the story. I probably do, but what inspired you to pursue the career centered on barefoot science and sensory integration? Where did this all start?
Yeah, total zigging, zagging, which is an important part of it because I think that leads to the most interesting people. Because
Yeah,
my life was not
life
linear.
is not nothing in nature
Life
is
is
a
not
straight
linear.
line.
Yes. But fun fact, my background, well, not so much a fun fact, but I was a competitive gymnast for 13 years. That is important to my movement history, my philosophy of movement, why I'm so into body weight training. I'm huge into aerials. We were just talking about ballroom. Like I'm very into human movement through how you use your body as the tool, right? Which is to me very important. So that's a fun side. But the other fun fact is that my background before fitness and movement was actually forensics. So I was going to be like CSI forensic pathologist doing autopsies all day. That was
I thought that that's what I was going to do too. I
really.
really thought I did. I thought, I think I will probably work in a morgue or something and learn about bodies and why people die. And then I was like, why would I want to be around dead people all the time? And so I just decided that wasn't the path for me, but
Oh
it's
my
crazy.
It's fascinating, but I think that is important. So that gives a perspective of how my brain works when I look at movement
Yeah.
and trying to figure out movement dysfunction as I look at it like a little detective, right? Which is important. So not surprised that your brain thinks the exact same way. So I had that. So I was going down the forensic path, living in New York City. I was doing an internship at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, doing forensic DNA research at that. Well, was like, I cannot do this all the time. So I quit, walked into a gym, a crunch on 42nd and 8th, and just said, I want to be a personal trainer. Didn't even know what that meant. I just wanted to be kind of in a gym environment. Fast forward, because of my background in gymnastics, I was getting hurt because my body was already used and abused. So it wasn't able to withstand really the level of group exercise that I was teaching and getting into. And
Well, it's also a different movement altogether. And I think that's the problem with people who are gymnasts is that you're doing this all of the time competitively. And then you stop and you start doing these very linear things that are just your body's like, I can't do
Yeah,
that,
like
right?
exactly. So totally kept getting injured. So I looked at graduate schools, but my requirement when I was looking at graduate school were two things. One, I had to be able to stay within fitness because fitness just speaks to my soul. First one. Second one, I have to be able to stay in New York City. So guess what was available? Podiatry. That was it. That what was available. And I started and I was like, what am I doing? Like feet are disgusting.
Yeah.
So
That's why I created the foot treatments. I was getting sick and tired of touching all those feet as a New York therapist. I was like, people have ranky feet in this city. You got to like clean
I
your
know. I
Oh,
was like, oh my God.
that's true.
So somehow I was like, okay, I'm committed to this thing. I spent $250,000 in debt to like go to the school. So, okay, let's figure it out. So I started to try to question things, connect things to the rest of the body. I was always looking at it through this gymnastics, movement, fitness lens, and then started to really start to realize that there is much more than your feet in isolation. Is obviously connected to the rest of the body.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I just think this was the world, or this is my, um, the world wanted me to do this in a sense that as soon as I graduated from podiatry school and started getting into the fitness conference circuit, the barefoot running boom happened. So I was there for that. And I was like, you know what? If anyone is going to like really bring education and content to the industry about this topic and shoes and footwear and
Yeah, it's
all this,
you.
I was like, I should be the podiatrist, right? It was like,
Yeah, I remember taking your class. I think it was either at ECA or IDEA. I can't even remember, but I was like, she's my people. Like everybody should listen to Emily. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've been like, go take Emily's class, go take her courses. Like, you just freaking listen to this lady. She's going to change your mind about everything you've learned and root you in the right elements of really movement longevity, which I think is all, this, but barefoot
yeah,
strong. I love the unlock the secrets to movement longevity. And I think that's a big thing that, where you and I really meet 1,000,000% is that you're not looking for quick fixes. You're looking for the sustainability of the physical form for an entire lifetime and feel good in it. Thank
yes.
you.
Yes, like a lifestyle change and an ownership that people need to be active participants in this journey of what you're teaching them or what I teach them, that they have to do it as well.
That's it. They have to be active participants in it. Well, I want you to share a little bit about how your journey as a functional podiatrist and movement specialist led to your Naboso technology that you have. Naboso, you gave me your awesome sensory awareness mat, which if you guys don't know about this, it's a mat that has like little tiny bumps on it so that your nervous system has those little micro spaces between the points, if I'm explaining that right. I think so, right? Yeah.
Yep,
and
yep.
and it really just helps to heighten sensory awareness, and just some of the fundamental concepts. It's just a great tool. But tell everybody a little bit about the boso.
Thank you. Yes. So Nabosa was developed 2017 is where I first started introducing it, and then it really formed itself in 2020. So took a little beta testing on it. But really, this was an extension of me post all my medical training and creating content around this barefoot science, barefoot running boom. So I'm creating education certifications, traveling the world, speaking about feet, barefoot science. And then it started being proposed, well, if I take my shoes off or my athlete's shoes off, what then? Like, what surface should I stand on? How do I get even more out of my feet if I'm taking my shoes and socks off? And that's where I really started questioning it. And I would have people just go to Home Depot and I would start talking about texture peripherally. And people would go to Home Depot and just get like sandpaper or like perf, like all these weird materials. And they'd be like, I'm training my clients on these weird materials. And I was like, okay, there's something
My
there.
client on sandpaper, and they're complaining about all these bruises and these like scabs and stuff. I'm not really sure what to do. I'm
I
sorry.
know. So I figured I needed to develop this. So I
That's
was just coincidentally approached by an engineer
Mhm.
who knew me in the industry and said, I'm available. Let's do this. Again, the world was talking. took several years to develop our first product, which was the Barefoot training mat covered with the tiny little pyramids. I have a different product. I don't know if you can see with my blur, but little tiny pyramids across the entire surface or every single product, stimulating a very specific nerve in the bottom of the feet, which is your braille nerve. So
Mhm.
the way that your brain reads braille through your finger is through the same nerve ending that we stimulate through Naboso.
So fascinating, so fascinating. And I love that. I mean, we even have like one of our new tools that we're going to have come out in the summer. It's that same thing, is understanding that micro space um between the areas where your nervous system is feeling it. It might seem like it's solid, but because of those micro spaces, it really does ignite major transformation through the whole body. I mean, I feel it every time I use your mat, so I think it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's what we have found. So my original intent was fitness, because that's where I was in, or athletics, because that was another one that I was in. And then we started getting used by people who have like neuropathy, stroke, and MS.
Mm.
And we realized the whole medical application is massive. And we've had great success in that category too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's such a great thing. And now you've got these two books, again, two, not one, people, two. And I'm halfway through Barefoot Strong. Again, this one is Unlock the Secrets to Movement Longevity. And you have Sensory Sapiens, a sensory-based approach to movement and longevity. So I'm not sure which one I should be reading first, but tell everybody a little bit about both of the books. Which one should we start with?
I would definitely start with Barefoot Strong. And the
So
reason
glad
that,
that that's
yeah.
intuitively, I thought that was
Good,
it.
good. Yes, love
Okay.
it. So that one, that is really honing in on your feet and the power of your feet. The feet is the gateway into the nervous system, foot typing, some basics about how your feet age and how you can tap into them, going into their foot types, footwear, etc. Then Sensory Sapiens is really the demonstration of the evolution of my journey of how I look at feet in human movement, is that barefoot science taught me to deepen my understanding of the entire sensory processing system, meaning exteroception, how we relate to the external world, interoception, how we relate to our internal environment, how they interplay, and how you can use one to feed into the other to then essentially regulate mood, memory, and movement. Those are my three things that I really focus on, that a lot of people could think at first glance, podiatrist, feet, barefoot, okay, I just don't want plantar fasciitis. And really what I'm talking about is way, way, way deeper than that. It's
Yeah,
emotional regulation. It is your self connection. It is cognitive processing. It's really, really powerful when you tap into the sensory side of the human. Just
that's right.
and that's why it's called sensory sapiens, because we are very sensory beings. And
Indeed.
find that today's modern society and just the way that things are processing in the world is that we are very disconnected from ourselves. We're
Oh,
disconnected
yeah.
physically. People don't,
Tuned out.
yeah, people just don't touch anymore. You can't spot, you can't touch people, you can't touch kids, the teachers can't, well, I don't even know. And that actually creates a lot of dysregulation because we're actually calibrated, recalibrated, grounded through touch.
Through touch. And that's so big what Emily is saying. My gosh, everybody rewind, play back, and listen to it three more times, because it really is. I think we need to be touched more. We need to touch one another. And you're right. I mean, when 2020 happened and COVID changed the world, I saw people in New York City actually change their frequency. It was like somebody was playing an instrument and now everything is B flat. It's just everything is like off and nothing is in tune. People putting their hands out when you walked past them. I mean, it was really,
Wow.
it was just, all I felt was fear everywhere. And that leaves us uprooted. It literally uproots us. So I think that that's right. I mean, everything that you talk about with movement longevity is about how we have sensory awareness, propriocept. Again, I think that's why even with melt, like we tell people to touch their bodies using a soft tool
Mhm.
instead of a hard one. I think that these things are logical. So let's talk a little bit just about the barefoot training, because you mentioned this, and I think this is really big. That was like super popular, actually, in New York City. I used to see people running in Central Park with no shoes on. I have one word. It's called glass. I'm not saying anything else. Okay. So barefoot trainings, it really did gain attention in recent years. It's kind of quieted down, but What is the shift that's happening now? And is it beneficial for people to be running barefoot, or should we just get our feet on the sand? What's your take on it?
Yeah. So what I want to first differentiate, and this is just from a decade in the space, is that a lot of times when people talk about barefoot running, I know you said literally barefoot, but many people will say, I'm barefoot running, but they're wearing minimal shoes. So there's this interplay between minimal shoes, barefoot shoes, right? Like which is more appropriate? Am I doing minimal running, meaning really a midfoot strike pattern? It has to do with the way that your foot is contacting the ground. Do you have to be a runner to wear minimal shoes or barefoot shoes? There was that misconception as well, that people thought, oh, if I'm going to wear 5 fingers, I am now committing to being a runner. And that's so not what the message was ever. And then really the trend now within the barefoot minimal shoe space is that it is actually increasing. You have more and more brands that are coming out, strong brands, very well designed, fashion focused minimal shoes, where before they used to be a little granola-ish looking, or very, very athletic. And not everyone wants to have like an athletic sneaker as part of their outfit, right? Because again,
Right.
not everyone's wearing them as a runner. So that's one thing. Then within this space of barefoot running, barefoot training, I think the boom around just the media conversation of barefoot training got a little fatigued. However, because I'm still in this space, you now have this continuous conversation of athletes training barefoot as their movement prep. They'll do some of their lifts barefoot.
Mhm.
It's become less like, oh my God, I'm doing barefoot. It's like, no, I do barefoot because you strengthen the foot and that's what you do with the, so it's kind of in the deeper layer of acceptance that is not as, huh, as it used to be, but it's still increasing. You see more and more pro level athletes having a conversation of this. And then
Mm.
I think what's also shifted is it's not just this barefoot thing, but it's like feet, like toe spacers, feet. Let's talk about toes. Let's talk about what you do for your feet at the end of the day versus, am I just training my feet barefoot? But it's actually like, no, we have to prioritize foot health and foot recovery. That's where I feel the conversation is right now, which has much more strength behind it. And it's a little bit broader.
Yeah, I think, well, is it broader? That's what I was going to say. It's like it kind of actually narrows it down because here's my, I kind of sometimes have a little bit of a gripe with the people who are all into their barefoot training is that if you have a client who has radically unstable hips, that their ability to stand on one leg and move their body around, like I love David Weck's idea of, like getting your head outside of the center of gravity and still being able to hold yourself up, the people can't do that. They have radical pronation. They are flat footed. They have knee problems. And now you think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and start barefoot training and running and moving. And that's going to like fix the problems up above. And that is not necessarily true. You can actually cause the body to go in the other way. You're almost training yourself to be a stronger, more dysfunctional body because you're trying to just work at the foot when you're not tying it to the rest of the body. You have to kind of bring it into, it's not about foot health. It really is about whole body stability and health.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. And that's where I try to come in, and I don't like to say things that are very polar. I feel as a medical practitioner, that's not part of my Hippocratic oath, is to say that and be like, every human being should be in barefoot shoes. I can't say that
Mhm.
because some people have ligament laxity, they have a navicular drop, they have a torn spring ligament, they have a tear in their post-tib tendon. They should not be barefoot in doing these things because those would be ones that are an example of exactly what you're saying, of how it would present, of what you were speaking about. There is an exception to every recommendation. There's gray in everything, right? So I think
Yeah,
it's,
there's no one panacea, one way to do it, and we're all going to benefit if we all do this one thing. There's probably one thing that we could all do more, which is just chill the heck out and breathe. But anyway,
yes.
a totally different conversation.
That is great. But yeah, I spend a lot of time telling people or helping them to understand that not all flat feet are weak feet. We have to understand just a little bit layer deeper
Beautiful.
and not taking everything through verbatim through or literally through the internet and social media. And if anyone is saying, I can, just as an example, bunions are my other thing, like I can reverse your bunion, I can reverse every bunion without surgery. Like bullshit, you can't.
Bullshit, you can.
Like if you could, I'm sure I would have come up with a long time ago. I'd be a millionaire on the beach right now
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not possible, right? And I don't like to mislead people through either my naivety. I don't know if it's the individual who's saying it that they're just naive and they don't understand the
They're
condition.
just trying to sell something that they think is like,
Or they're
because,
just trying to sell something,
yeah,
right?
it's probably not from America, by the way, people.
I
Anyway.
don't. I I like to sleep at night by knowing that I am ethically saying things
Of
and that
course.
I ground them through science and logic.
Indeed. And I think that's a really important message is where you're getting your information from. And we do have this internet, which for the blessing and curse of all of us is I mean, there's so much generated AI now that you are not necessarily seeing what you think you're seeing, just pointing that out. But, in the case of a bunion, like my bunion was terrible. Like my foot, my toe was starting to go like this, but I was in my 20s and it was my mother who said to me, you have a toe just like mine. I was like, whoa, like I got to fix that because if that's where it's going, oh my God, there's got to be a way to fix it. And it takes a great deal of focus and a great deal of strength, and you have to catch it early on. If you're 60, 70 years old and you're like, wow, my bunions are so bad that like I can't even roll over the front of my foot anymore, you can buy every gadget you want, and it is not going to change that structure at that point. But if you have pain, can you change your gait, strengthen your foot architecture, stabilize your hip, and hydrate your feet to the point where you minimize the pain that you have? Hell yes, you can. Like
So
this is kind of the software, right?
I'm so glad you said that because that's also where I want people to understand that just because I'm saying certain things does not mean that I have this other aspect where I am trying to at least decompress the system to minimize the pain to the area so we can optimize your gait as much as possible, maybe using certain footwear. There's different methods because our goal is movement longevity and really the quality of movement in that longevity.
Amen to that. That all makes perfect sense. So I mean, seeing we're talking about this, you've said a lot of actually misconceptions. Like people think, oh, I've got to run. I'm only going to use barefoot shoes if I'm going to go for a run. But are there particular places where you think actually wearing a barefoot shoe over being barefoot is better?
I would say if you're in an outside environment, sure, because of what you had said, there's stuff on the floor that we don't know, right? Trail
Right.
running, like trails, that's another big one because there's lots of little things that you can't even see under. But if you are, let's say, lifting at the gym, I would much rather be completely barefoot. If I'm going to be in minimal shoes and I'm doing like deadlifts and squats and things like that, I would
Right.
much rather be completely barefoot so I can just really spread, splay, and stimulate the nerves as much as possible.
Right. Just don't drop the weight on your foot. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So what about like professionals and everyday movers then? How can they integrate your barefoot training concepts, the Naboso tools into their routine? Where's their starting place?
Yeah. So where I would say what I advocate, don't even think you have to undertake barefoot training. That's not even what I'm trying to sell. It is more what are little things that you can do every morning when you first wake up to wake up your foot muscles, your nerves, your circulation, get those toes talking to your core, ready to essentially carry your body weight and talks to gravity throughout the day. And I have like a little 5 to 7 minute thing that people can do first thing in the morning. Very efficient, release the feet on the neural ball, wake it up, do some setting your base, a little forward lean to wake up your toes, do a little single leg stability, boom, you're good. Then at the end of the day, what can you do to just give a little bit of a TLC to your feet? Use toe spacers, 30 minutes. Release your feet again on the neural ball when you brush your teeth at the end of the day. Slide on the Nabosa recovery socks as a way to stimulate and release and act like a mini massage on the feet at the end of the day. That's all we're doing, right? Is just initially think about and have a habit for your feet that you're doing consistently.
I
And then
love
all
that.
the other stuff in there, right? Could you do like barefoot training? Could you do Pilates? Could you do yoga? Could you do foot centric things? Could you do more things? Do we want to do melt? Of course, add that in,
Right.
but I'm just trying to get this baseline foot habit for people's lifestyle.
I love that. I mean, really, for all of the time that we spend trying to make our ass look more lifted in our jeans, you would think we would spend the same amount of time making our feet a priority in our lifestyle. Also, our hands. I mean, really, you want to get around, you need your feet. You want to pick stuff up, eat food, clean yourself, whatever. Your hands are really important, but we would spend more time on a deadlift to make my butt bigger. I don't know, that's like a thing now, then just really care for the most used parts of our body. I'm totally in on it. I want you to talk about this. I've just gotten to this point, and so I don't want you to have a spoiler alert, but I'm on this chapter 5, which is about barefoot baby boomers. And I really want you to talk a little bit about this, because if you are a little older than, I don't know how old you are, but I'm in my mid 50s. So people who are like a decade older than me, and you're in that baby boomer world, and you're coming into learning about this for the first time. And now you're like, okay, now I'm going to start to do something. Or maybe you were doing things before. What is this chapter going to tell me? Is this something specific about, hey, if you're this age, here's some other things you want to think about?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we age, we know that the number one concern as we age is probably not falling from a movement perspective, right? You don't want to get hurt. The risk of getting injured goes up with age. And then the biggest injury is going to be falls, right? It literally is just the reality of it.
That's
So
it.
part of that is then saying, okay, how do we think about the role of the feet in balance? Because it's a balance story here, right? When you fall, you've lost your balance. You lost a sense and a control of your center of mass, so your center and how it relates to your base, your feet, and the accuracy or the perception, the timing of the perception of that shift just wasn't fast enough, and then you fell, right?
That's it.
So our feet play a very important role in balance stabilization. A lot of that is the nerves. So your nerves age, of course,
What a
and
tragedy.
I know the sensitivity of those nerves actually goes down. So here's a fun fact. So the peak sensitivity of the nerves in your feet is age 40. By the time you are 70, you need twice the stimulation to create the same response, which I consider it like volume or like a dimmer switch. If I
Mhm.
turn the volume up twice as loud or turn the light up twice as high so you actually hear it, then that's a thing that I have to acknowledge. But if I put cushion in my shoes because I have foot pain or I'm losing the fat on the bottom of my foot, so my foot just, I'm feeling the knuckle of my foot, right? Fat pad atrophy is a thing in aging feet.
I
So
know, and especially postmenopausal, by the way, people.
yep, and add that in there, right? And then your podiatrist gives you thick old cushioned shoes. So now that takes away the sensory awareness even more. Like this is a huge contributor to falls. Another one is anything with your toes. So bunions, we spoke about a little bit, but hammer toes. If your toes start to contract in, we maintain balance because of our toes, toe strength. So the ideal position for your toes is long, straight, and flat on the ground.
I
Anything
would think.
shortening, yeah, if they're shortening in, you've essentially compromised your balance. That's why I love toe spacers. And I actually consider toe spacers a balance tool.
Mhm.
If you're doing balance exercises and you're over 60, you have to use your toe spaces when you're doing the balance exercises to optimize the digits as part of that, right? So that's a very important part of this, like barefoot baby boomers thinking about footwear. Yes, you can strengthen your arch. You have 26 muscles in the bottom of your feet. You got to wake them up so that they're dynamic. So that's a little teaser of that chapter.
I love that. Well, I can't wait for that, because my mom fell in January, had a bad break, bad surgery, and then a second surgery to fix the bad surgery. And at 84, and the doctor says, look, at her age, 50% of them make it out and they get back to their pre-injury lifestyle, and 50% don't. And I
Yeah.
thought, that is the worst gambling I've ever heard. And I looked at him, I was like, well, my mom's going to be on the other 50% of the side that gets better.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think that you'll do it. I mean, she looks pretty good right now after everything she's been through. I'm like, we are working hard. So it's scary. I mean, that age, I think, It is. I think the worst thing that happens is that you fall and you can't move the way that you want to. At any age, it's crippling, but as you get older, I think it also comes with how you were talking about a lot of the mental fear. It changes your trust in your feet. And so I think that doing these sensory techniques is really, I mean, we talk about this all the time. It's just like we just all need to pay attention to what's going on at the bottoms of our feet.
Yeah. If I can add to that, which is what's tied into the sensory sapiens, so definitely they'd want to get both books, but is in sensory sapiens, I talk about body schema. And body schema is your mind's mental picture of your body in space, right? It's like a internal map in your head, right? And it's subconscious. You're not aware that this is happening. And I take people through a practice of shutting their eyes and they visualize and they feel and see their body and the size and shape in your morphology, right? Is that as we age, our morphology, our shape, right? Your muscle mass goes down, adipose tissue often goes up, and we switch. And it actually contributes to a inaccuracy of the mental picture. So we have to be able to maintain this schema. This is what I actually think is like critical. They should be teaching body schema in schools. They should be doing
Yeah.
like everyone in every age, because if we don't have that, I mean, that's where reaction time is based off of, or not bumping into something, misreaching, and then you fall, right? It's all about inaccurate perception on things. And it's really, really interesting when you see that difference. My boyfriend's parents are both 81, 82, kind of same. And his mom was a dancer for years. So she zips around. She went skiing this year with us. She goes down water slide. Like, this woman moves like she's like 50. And because she just has such high movement awareness and perception and accuracy of how she's just moving. And it's
Love
just
that.
intrinsic because it's always been trained, and she still dances today, which is amazing. The dad, very, very different, and he's overly cautious. He takes short steps.
Mhm.
Can tell he has a fear of falling. He's obviously very slowed down. And it's very interesting. It's obviously sad to see that difference, because the trajectory is going to be very different between these two. But to me, seeing his parents is just a great demonstration of the power of maintaining movement throughout your life. It has to be a core part of who you are, which I know it is for you and probably a lot of the listeners. But like, I can't not move during the week. That if I don't, something is missing. Like, I'm just like, I
Yeah.
need to, like, where's my drug? Just
Yes,
move
it
it.
is. It is. Well, and the endorphin changes and everything. I think that all of these things are so important. And you're right. As we get older, I tell all of my clients, whatever it is you did when you felt your best, if you were dancing, you were playing basketball, you love soccer, you did tennis, you were a runner, always do it.
Mhm.
Always, even if it's less or less aggressive, right? But just if you were a soccer player, go out into the park and just kick a ball and let your nervous system remember that. Because when you're older, if you still have that recall, those are the soldiers who live the longest. Their bodies move just like how you're talking about your boyfriend's mom, right? They move the best, the longest, because your nervous system is just anticipating how you want to move in the first place. So if you
Yeah.
keep moving that way, your body's going to keep moving that way. And it's
Mhm.
always, in my experience with my clients who get injured, who are athletes, and they don't go back to the game, they're the ones that have another injury and another injury. They pick up other things and they actually get more injured doing the other things because the body is seeking the stuff it knows, right?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Can you give me maybe a testimonial, somebody whose experience you really transformed their lives, and understanding the sensory awareness and instilling sensory awareness transformed how they felt in their body?
I mean, to me, one of the most powerful ones, it is going to be a neurological condition. So I'm just take that for what that is, because someone who has neuropathy, MS, Parkinson's, stroke, etc., they are coming into this with a deficit. right? So if I teach them to tap into their nervous system through wrist weights, weighted vests, compression apparel, vibration, Naboso, right? I'm just turning the volume up to what their brain needs to read it or feel it. So that's typically where you see the most dramatic responses. But so she has MS, and we actually have a blog featuring her because she's such a powerful response. But she has MS, and 1 in 4 people with MS will get neuropathy and some sort of foot drop. So she had neuropathy, huge fear of falling. And we were doing this pilot study with our insole. She enrolled, she did our neuro insole, and it completely transformed this woman. Like she was like, I can now go to the grocery store alone. Like I'm not dependent on my daughter. Like stories like that actually make me really, really emotional because these people, like, they're like, I can move again, move
Right. I can live my life.
freedom. I can socialize. I can enjoy the sunset. I can, like, it was just so transformative. And now she's just like one of the biggest ambassadors. She's like, I put your material on my bike, so it's on my hand. Like she just innovates and puts our material everything and everywhere so that she can get it. But it has completely transformed her life, but then also like thousands of others people who share things. I've seen Parkinson's videos where people will walk with the insoles, not put them in walk, and then they're like, throw their cane, and they're like, dun, dun, dun. They start running. Like it looks like it is snake oil
No,
because it's
it does.
so transformed.
Yes, but I think that's great. I'm thinking now, gosh, of course, my mom, I said she broke her femur. Now she has drop foot. And I think I'm going to order some of the products and leave them over at her house because I don't want to take mine because then I will forget them there. But I think that that's a great opportunity at her age to do things that are going to stimulate those particular receptors. I think that's, yeah. Ding, ding, ding. I'm so excited. It's just timely that we're having this conversation.
100%, 100%. I'll share one other one really, really fast. This
Yeah.
is when I was practicing on Wall Street in New York. This is before Naboso. So this was literally just barefoot foot stimulation for this guy. And he was like one of the Wall Street guys. And he comes in, he was like, do you think that my focus at work, which has dramatically increased since I started seeing you and doing this foot stuff, he's like, do you think that's connected? I'm like, absolutely. And he was like,
Yes.
oh my God. Because he was like, I couldn't focus. And now he's just like, and I'm like, absolutely. That's the power of touch and tapping into the thousands of the nerves in the feet to stimulate the brain, hand, of course, as well. But it's really powerful and it's underappreciated.
Yeah, I think it could even help people with ADD, ADHD. I think that this is big, right?
It does. We work with ADD schools for children. I have many, many parents. Our sensory sticks, they're weighted and texture. So the combination of weight, which is proprioceptive, and texture, which is mechanoceptive, very, very anchoring to
Yes.
kids. Obviously, there's adult with ADD and ADHD as well, but the parents find a great result with the texture and just sensory stimulation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it just sounds like duh, like we should all be doing that for kids who have these kind of things, anything to that is struggling or a special needs, stimulate their sensory awareness. It's such a 101 for everything. I love that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about a little bit about the future and your philosophy. What is next for Nabosu and your sensory-based training and the regenerative medicine that you're always talking about?
Yeah, so of course I have my practice where I see patients virtually. Still see them, not as many because or not as much because running several businesses. But doing that, always exploring and trying to tap into new things, creating programs so that consumers, patients can really take this information at home and utilize it themselves, meaning online based education so people can take ownership of their health. That's a big part of it. Through Naboso, we are continuously developing new products, trying to play in other sensory stimuli. So texture is at the core of Naboso. Our patent is on that texture. But when we combine texture with weight, that's essentially dual sensory, right? So how do I access the nervous system through dual sensory stimuli. We're playing around with other stimuli. One of them is vibration and trying to create a very unique frequency for that so people can combine that. So we're working on that. Hopefully that launches later part of this year. We have a couple new products that are launching a little bit earlier in the summer. And then, I mean, my book was a huge project. That was exhausting. So
Writing a book is no joke. I mean,
that was, I know.
yeah, script writing, book writing, it's tireless. I feel
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So that was a huge thing. So just really pushing and continuously being on a journey of helping people prioritize their foot health. But again, the foot is a conduit into the entire sensory story of what we are. And I just really want people to understand interoception as well, exteroception, interoception, emotional regulation, how touch can help you connect to emotional regulation. So yeah.
Yeah, everybody should just get a big hug too. I think that that would be a nice
Yes.
message.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a hug. So, Emily, I ask everybody who comes on Anatomical Gangster the same question. So I'm going to pose it to you because I'm sure that you have a good message. If if you could tell somebody a life lesson that you learned or something that really changed your relationships, how you move about in the world, really freed you, and if they heard it, it might very well change the course of their life, what would it be?
So I'd say listen to your intuition of your gut because it always knows. Maybe you don't exactly know what it means at that moment, but typically it's a little bit on point. And then in relation to that, sometimes listening to your intuition may require you to do what's called breaking the jump. And breaking the jump is one of my favorite messages. Do you know the story of breaking the jump?
I don't. What is that?
So it's a parkour philosophy. And parkour, which is where you jump from like building to building, very UK, I think it began in Paris. They have this thing called breaking the jump. And breaking the jump is when you're running to the edge of the building and you're like, like I don't know. And then you like go back and you're like, come on, I can do it, right? And you're like, you go back. And it's essentially breaking the jump is you have to so fully believe in yourself and what you are being drawn to, what you're called to. And you know that you can make that jump, right? Like intuitively, you know you can make that
Mhm.
jump, right? So it is being all in. You're 100% committed. And when you are called to break the jump, is what I will call it. When you're called to it, you know when you're called and you have to 100% be all in.
That is a great message. I love that, Emily. And what I'm so grateful that we had this time to talk. And what brought us back together are books. And again, I will definitely read them both. I highly recommend anything that you do to everybody. How can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so Instagram, Dr. Emily DPM is my handle. Naboso is NABOSO_technology. All the Naboso products are naboso.com. And then for my podiatry site, it is thefunctionalfootdoc.com.
Perfect. Well, guys, I hope everybody who's listening to this has loved this conversation as much as I did. Thank you guys all so much for being part of Anatomical Gangster. Emily, thank you again so much for coming on and chatting with me. I hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure that you subscribe, share this one with your friends. It always helps to grow and get more cool people to talk to me about their innovations. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay gangster, and I'll see you next week.